Hey there. Today I'm going to show you how I make my own fretboards using a jig that I made. Basically, it's a miter box. This is what it looks like. What this is just a piece of maybe a 3/4 inch thick plywood, and I put these side railings. These are 3/4 inch thick by 14 inches long. I glued on these side railings, and I made sure that they're nice and flush square on both ends. It's really important. Otherwise, your fret slots will be not straight. So you got to make sure that the side railings are completely squared. Once I did that, I made this whole piece right here without this. I split that in half. You can do that on a miter box or a miter saw, and it's very important that once you split that in half, it's got to be a full-on 90-degree angle, so that way your fret slots are straight. I split that in half, and I put it together with 1/8 inch thick, or it could be thicker, wood. In this case, I use basswood. It's just scrap wood that I use right here. So I put that together. I left a gap over here of 0.023 millimeter, or it could go less, but no more than that. Otherwise, your fret slots will be too wide and your frets won't fit accordingly. It won't be snug when you put on your frets if it's over 0.023 millimeters. So there's that gap right there of 0.023 millimeters. Once I did that, it's all together. The side railing extra pieces, I just screwed it on there, just so that I have a guide for the saw. The interesting part about this miter box is that within that gap, I don't know if you can see it, there is a razor blade there. I flipped it over and used the dull side of the razor blade. Right? And what that does is that I'll demonstrate it later. I just sandwiched it in the gap right here. Essentially, what you do, you get a fretboard that you've already cut, measured. This is soprano ukulele. I label it, and you put the blank underneath. You flip it over, and each slot catches onto that razor blade. Once that razor blade is caught, you have a mirror image of the blank. You saw the fret slots. So that way there's no measuring. And I'll demonstrate that to you and how I do it. So, alright. First things first. When you make fretboards, you got to measure each slot, each space, each gap, and then mark it, and then saw it on the miter box. Make sure it's nice and straight. And each time you make a build, you would have to do that, and you have to measure it. I don't really like measuring that much, so what I did is that I made templates of different sizes of fretboards. Let's see over here. These are several fretboard sizes. This one's I label them this soprano. This one is a tenor ukulele. All right. This one is a concert ukulele. This one is a baritone. And then you got your blanks right here. These are blanks. And this one's maple, maple wood. This one's redwood. But my templates are, I pre-measured them. They're all different sizes, obviously. I have one for guitar as well too, and for bass guitar and short scale bass guitar as well too. So they're all pre-measured, and I keep these. I don't use them unless I really want to. These are actually nice pieces of wood. They're African mahogany. This one's a redwood. This one's maple. I'm gonna do guitar on this one. I did a bridge already on that one. This one's redwood. Okay, I'm gonna use the redwood, and I'm planning on doing a resonator tenor ukulele. So I got my tenor template right here. Yeah. So, and this is what you do. Set the camera down. So you got your template right here. It's already pre-measured. This one I painstakingly measured it, cut the slots, and make sure it's nice and straight. This is where the nut will be at. Eventually I'll cut this off, this space right here, and that's where I'm going to put the nut. But I like to put the space over there, and obviously there's a big space over to where the fretboard lays on the body of the instrument. And I kind of cut the blank somewhat the same length, you know. Um, this one's a little wider, but that's okay. It doesn't really matter. You're gonna have to cut that anyways when you shape your neck. So what you do is you put these two together, yeah. Um, the template fret slots side up, and then the side to where you want the blank slot or the blank or the slots of the blank are gonna be. So in this case, on this side, it's much nicer. And what you do is you kind of put it together. Now I clamp my miter box. This is the miter box that I made, the jig that I made. I clamp it down to the edge of the table, or what you can do is get like a big piece of heavy wood and then screw that in. You just want stability on it. So what you do is you just kind of flush it. Make sure that it's nice and flush together. They're nice and flush. You get masking tape, yeah. And that gap where the nut is gonna be, um, like I was talking about, is that's the area to where you want to tape it. So just make sure that it's nice and flush. Just put the underside down, hold it together. It's nice and flush, and then you tape it up, making sure that you don't cover the fret slot area where you're gonna be cutting. So a little bit more just for good measure. So nice and flush, important. Otherwise your fret slots will be crooked if you're not flush together on the blank and the template. So flip it over, do it on the other side now. Go on the underside when you tape first. That way you can use one hand to make sure that it's nice and flush. The tighter the tape is, the better. What you want to do though is you got to make sure that there's no wrinkles on your tape. Otherwise you'll have a little bit of problems when you're moving it around into the miter box. So there we go. So it's taped up together and it's flush together on one edge. It doesn't really matter the size of the blank because you're only going to be relying on one straight edge side. In this case, the bottom side is what I use. Now, saw. The perfect saw for cutting frets is called a Dazuki flush cut saw, Japanese. This is 0.023 millimeter, and I think like 32 TPI in teeth per inch. I use this specifically just to cut fret slots. So remember the blade that I was talking about right here, right? All making sense now, yeah? So what you do is you slide this along. Okay, until the fret slot, the first fret slot catches right there. So it's caught. And essentially it's a mirror image of the bottom piece. So it's a no-brainer. You don't need a measure. You get your saw, right? The only thing with this is the depth of cut. That you got to figure out yourself. Obviously, you don't want to cut it too deep, and you don't want to cut it too not enough. What I do is I just run it through 4 times. This knife's pretty. I mean, this saw is pretty sharp. Making sure that it's flat all the way around. You don't want to go saw it like this. Make sure it's flat so it's nice and even. Okay. So we'll do our first slot. Score it lightly just to get an initial groove. 2. I go one more. Alright. I didn't feel that it's quite deep enough yet, so I'll do another one. Right there. Alright. And then move it down. To the next fret slot. Right there. Okay. Same thing. Make sure your knife is nice and straight and flat. Light score first. Don't want to dig into it, otherwise you get some rip out. 2. Okay. 3. Okay. So this is the first fret. 4. Do it again. We'll do the second fret now. Okay. It's caught into the groove. 1, 2. Nice and flat. 3. Okay. See? There you go. You got yourself some fret slots. Yeah? And it's an exact mirror image of your template. It's so simple. You can do it on guitar, you can do it on bass, you know, any type of string instruments. And then on the sides, you know, you're just gonna sand that off anyways. You're gonna cut that anyways. But that's basically it. This is one that